got a client who will listen to this. Anyway, he called up and he had a guy working on his crew. And one of the drivers who was delivering concrete to that job said, "Hey, do you know so-and-so's handing out business cards for himself?"
Ooh.
My client called me about that. What do you think I ought to do?
For what? Like business cards for what?
Doing the same thing, same kind of work. My initial reaction was the same as yours, like, ooh, fire his ass. But also, the guy never handed out cards when my client was around.
I'm usually a proponent of side hustles, side work, but there's so many factors to consider.
Expert advice, practical tips, real life stories. Have less stress, more time, and more money in your business. Welcome to the Cashflow Contractor.
What were you saying?
I was just saying.
What did you have to ask me? If I was okay, or if I still liked you? What was it?
Yeah, you still love me, man. You hadn't answered like 2 or 3 of my messages, and you usually do. And I thought possibly you had given up your iPhone for Lent. And you know what? Giving up your iPhone, I don't know what all that means. That probably means you can't do about half the things you would normally do.
I'm a real wannabe contractor now because I have a Caterpillar phone.
And what, really?
Cat, do you see that?
Yeah, I can see it on the phone, but what is the phone? It looks like a flip phone.
It is a flip phone. It is circa, actually, I think they made this in 2023.
Well, it looks like a BlackBerry. It's got keys.
It does not look like a BlackBerry. It's the T9 keyboard. You press, if you want to hit the C, you've got to hit 2-3 times to get C.
And actually, you're a little blurry, and when you hold that up, I can't really see it, but it has keys.
It's like a dial pad. It has a dial pad. That's it.
Well, that's what, so you don't have it doesn't have
it's not touchscreen. It's physical buttons, but it's a dial pad. So like if I want to type call, I have to hit 2-3 times, wait, and then I have to hit 2 again for A, and then I've got to hit 5 3 times.
You're going back to 1995.
It actually wasn't that long ago. I had a flip phone in 2005, so that's 20 years, but it's not 1995.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
And I used to had one of those little Nokia ones that's about 3.5 inches, looked like a tennis shoe, I used to say.
Yeah.
Real small.
With snake on it.
And you had to do that, hit, through all the symbols to get to A. And then if you went too far, you had to do it again. Well, I remember sitting in Houston airport coming back from actually Mexico, which is irrelevant. But I texted Katie, my youngest daughter, who at that time was maybe 14 or something. I don't know. And it took me an hour to type, "How are you doing?" Send.
Yeah.
Boom, I got an answer. That's a paragraph. And I go, "What?" I said, "Did you type that?" Boom. Of course I typed it. I just used my QWERTY key, Anyway, she could type faster on one of those phones or type out a message than I could speak the message. Anyway, amazing. So.
Yeah, it's, I'm doing it for Lent. It's been 2 weeks now. I really struggled with the calendar aspect. I live by my calendar. It's on my iPhone. I, look at it multiple times a day. It's how I schedule things. It's how I know where I need to be and what I need to do and all that stuff. But I got the flip phone. At first I got a Nokia flip phone. And I said it had Google Calendar. I was like, okay, I can make this work, but the Google Calendar didn't work. So then I got this Caterpillar phone that has an Android version of.
Did you buy that in a pawn shop or something, or can you still buy that?
No, I got it on Amazon for $90.
Okay.
So yeah. So I got this Caterpillar one that has this Android Go. It's like a flip phone Android, so I can like download apps and stuff. But I only did that because I wanted Google Calendar. And it works, but it only works from the time you connect it, meaning it doesn't sync every day. So I connected it once, and whatever I had on my calendar when I connected it is there, but any updates are not syncing over. So it's really not worth it.
And hence the benefit is not working. That's the whole thing.
The whole thing. So anyways, I've just realized how much I've been on my phone my whole life, or not my whole life, but the last 10 years, how much I don't even think about
yeah.
it. Googling
Well,
something.
your brain knows because it's got a burned in impression on it. Like, you use screensavers on your TV so you wouldn't get a shadow permanently. I kind of imagine that's what's going on in my head. I had a client this week, I was talking to him, and he just made the comment. He said, if you're talking to me, presume you're on speakerphone because you are. And I said,
Oh yeah,
is your wife sitting there? And he goes, well, she happens to be, but that doesn't matter. I just want you to know you are on speakerphone if you're talking to me. And I said, okay. He said, yeah, the reason was he had to have shoulder surgery. They had to go in and clean
because of
out
this.
from holding his phone
Yeah.
up to his ear. And he also got a, like a sunspot, like a squamous cell cancer deal removed from his ear. That he
Because of
wasn't,
how much he was on the phone.
it wasn't like radio waves. It was mechanical, that his phone's
Oh.
always rubbing against his ear. So I
Oh,
may have, but anyway, I thought, wow. And when you held up that cat phone,
yeah.
remind me two things that are kind of interesting. One's a cat key. Okay. The other one is I have been hearing recently that on the radio, people, on the commercial radio, sports animal, that they're selling basically they're walkie-talkies. They're nationwide. And I saw those, but they're push to talk, and you can talk to as many as 280 people. And anyway, they're going back to radio. I mean,
Yeah.
walkie-talkies.
No,
And I
this
thought,
this
well, it
literally
must be
has
a
that.
market.
I don't know if you can see that from here, but there's a gold
Kinda.
button on there on the
Yeah, I
side.
can see that.
That's the walkie-talkie function of this phone.
Okay. Yeah.
But you have to have the same phone to be able to walkie-talkie.
Well, you get your whole crew. I mean, you
Yeah,
put
for
your whole
sure.
crew on it
No,
instead of,
that's why they made the phone. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I want my crew to have a phone, but I don't want to be liable for them downloading porn on the phone, and then now it's my company phone. You
Hey,
know, so
valuable tip, let guys look into it. So
yeah. So
did you buy that from
anyways,
Cat on Amazon
no,
or
I don't even. I mean, just
whoever makes
search
it?
on Amazon, you'll find it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a good process. I feel so much more clear-headed. It's unreal. I am actually having trouble going to sleep because I feel like I have so much more capacity because I'm not scrolling all the time and like doing different
Yeah.
things and like research this and watch this video. And I mean, it's just crazy. Like at the gym, it's hilarious. I'm like, I'm not listening to music. I'm not doing anything. And I'll be in the sauna at the gym and I'll watch all these people come in and they're just glued to their phones. And I'm just
Sitting
sitting
on the
there.
bench and then get up
Yeah.
every 3 minutes and do something, go sit back down again. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, my workouts are so much more productive. Like
Yeah.
I'm in and out because I'm not listening to anything else. I'm not checking my phone every once in a while. I'm not following a workout plan on there. I've got a piece of paper with my workouts on it and I get after it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. There's no end. It's nothing new, but there's no end
no,
to
it's
the
not.
damage that these devices have done.
Well, they
continue to
say
do.
that if you go screen free, which I'm not screen free, like I'm on my computer right now, obviously.
Right.
I'll get on my iPad now to that's a whole other aspect of this is the iMessage debacle. It's real. I call it green text neglect, where essentially now I'm showing up green for people. And so I don't get texted as often. I'm not in any of the group chats, which is actually
Yeah.
a plus in some
You're an
respects.
outcast.
I'm an outcast.
Yeah.
But I still have
Ooh.
my iCloud email that I can iMessage from on my computer and on my iPad because I'm on Mac. And so there's some things that I'll message some friends that I'm in groups on there and stuff. But yeah, I think ultimately they say that if you are not using screens, TV, all that stuff for 6 weeks, just zero screens, your memory retention increases like 600% or something
Yeah.
like that. That's just
Yeah.
out of this world. And I believe it because my memory is so much better. Like now I look at my calendar on the computer and I'll remember it verbatim the next day, which I
Wow.
wouldn't have been able to do before because I would just I could just look at my phone. Why would I need to remember it? And I know I have that meeting at 2 every Wednesday. Yeah, that's in there. But the little things that pop up, anyways, it's It's been good.
Well, when I start to lose it, I want you to tell Diane about that. She can hide my phone, and
Okay.
then maybe I'll recover. Did I tell you that joke about Alzheimer's? Two
I
ladies went to
forget.
the doctor.
I
I don't know if
forget.
I should. Oh, there you go. Yeah, if I could just remember. Well, either way, it works. They said these two ladies, one of them had a doctor appointment. Her friend went with her, and
Mhm.
the lady goes in. The doctor comes out a half hour later, and friend walks up and says, "What'd the doctor say?" She says, "He says I have Alzheimer's." She goes, "Oh man, what a bummer." She goes, "Well, look on the bright side. At least I don't have Alzheimer's."
Yeah.
Okay, I
No,
shouldn't
I
have
mean,
said
that's
that.
so
I
true. My
bet so many
grandfather,
people are affected by that, including me and my family. But heck, laugh
yeah.
at it because
Well, my grandfather in Morocco passed away at like 96, and probably the last 8 years, 6 years, 8 years of his life. Um, I don't know if it's dementia or Alzheimer's. Honestly, I don't know the difference
it
that
doesn't matter.
well.
Yeah, it can be
Yeah,
strokes
but
or
he was military in Morocco, saw some wild stuff in World War II, you know, had a hard life and was pretty stern. And,
right.
what I remember me with he had a piece of hose.
Ooh,
Yeah. No, hey, me and
well, at
my
least he
cousin
wasn't a
got
chain.
some licks.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean, a
wow.
rubber hose hurts.
Yeah.
Um, Anyways, so he was pretty intense, but then he got dementia and he started like laughing all the time. Like he was
Right.
always, he didn't know what was
In a
going
good mood.
on, but he
Yeah.
was in a good mood all the time.
Yeah.
And, here's a funny story. My, my dad is the polar opposite of my grandfather. And they never really jived. They always butted heads. Cause my dad was never really that serious, but my grandpa was all serious. And as he got dementia, they started bonding a lot more. And part of it was that, like, my grandfather would go into things like they're gonna sell the farm. Like they had a farm out in the country and some land. Like he'd wake up like they're selling the farm. Like they're we need to go stop them. They're gonna sell it. And it's not theirs, it's ours. Da, da, da. And my dad would, rather than like stop, go to sleep, whatever, he'd be like, yeah,
Yeah. Let's
but
go.
do you know it's actually they're selling it to the government. They're gonna start sending rockets. They're building a space station on the land. Like he'd take it one up, you know. He'd like add to the story. And then all of a sudden, my grandpa would like look over me like,
That's
"You're
not
effing with
true.
me. You're
Yeah.
and then he'd go back to sleep." But anyways, fun times.
That's one way. Hey, the other thing I was going to mention was a cat key.
Okay, what's a cat key?
I
I
don't
have no
remember
idea.
why it came up, except you had a cat phone. But
Okay.
contractors listening that run cat, and it may not be this way anymore, but 25 years ago, there was a universal cat key, and it would open the door and start any cat machine anywhere.
Okay.
So people truck drivers, for example, that did long haul equipment hauling and stuff, they could just show up at some remote intersection and start the bulldozer and drive it. Anyway, there was a cat key, and which I thought was kind of cool. But also had
Sounds
sign of
theft.
potential
Yeah.
obvious drawbacks. But I don't know how this
You
adds
could
to the
basically do that
story,
through
but
your
it's
phone now. I'm sure you could just use the phone to start the.
probably
That's what
there's probably some
that's how
they give you
Teslas work now. Like if you have a card, but you have your phone, you can start your car from anywhere and have it come pick you up.
I know.
It's
Yeah, if
crazy.
it's not on fire, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, man. Well, anyway, I was at a mine in Bessie, Oklahoma, it's a gypsum mine, and they did a lot of blasting. And we were
Yeah.
working up there with a rock grinding machine. And anyway, they had a shed out there that had explosives in it, right? Info
Yeah.
or ammonium nitrate and blasting caps and all this. It had a lock on it, and the lock was a cat lock. Anybody with a cat key could open that lock anyway. So I don't know if they still do that. I don't know if that was that interesting, but it was interesting to me at the time. And I'm
Cat
sure they
key.
don't keep explosives on location 25 miles out in the country or under lock and key with a cat key that can be opened by anybody who's ever been on a Caterpillar piece of machinery. So
Yeah, I'm sure hopefully they've probably made some changes, but if not, I'll have to get a cat key for just staying on brand. for my life.
Yeah.
I'll just start getting cat
Well, you
boots, cat
start a dozer
jeans.
sometime and run it around, teach yourself how to operate it, you know?
Oh gosh. So you were texting me, you were saying you want to talk about side work a little bit, side hustles.
Yeah, I've got a client who will listen to this. Matter of fact, I'll talk to him before this comes
Tell
out.
him to
What
fast
is his
forward
name?
15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, just got off the phone with him. No. Anyway, he called up and he had a guy working on his crew. And one of the drivers who was delivering concrete to that job said, "Hey, do you know so-and-so's handing out business cards for himself?"
Ooh.
Right. So
Okay.
my client called me about that. What do you think? What do you think I ought to do? And I said,
For what?
"Fire him."
Like business cards for what?
For doing the same thing,
Doing the same thing. Okay.
same kind of work. Yeah. And okay, but that's one of the nuances I want to talk. And this is more nuanced than my initial reaction was the same as yours. Like, ooh, fire his ass. Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of my default position. I've had that come up many times not many, but more than once over the years. But then, that was my first, and then my initial, talking a little further, he said, "Well, I did tell this guy one time that he could do little work, like maybe pour the concrete under an air conditioner or a little sidewalk, something that he didn't want to do. But also the guy never handed out cards when my client was around. Anyway, so there you go. Do you and like I said, this is more nuanced than it appears. So
yeah, it is very, very nuanced. And I'm usually a proponent of side hustles, side work, but there's so many factors to consider.
well,
I think first, let's dive in. I think the first one we should discuss is about, maybe we start at the ground level and just say why would they be doing side hustles? I think understanding the motive behind it's really important. Are they doing it because they're trying to start their own business? Or are they doing it because they need some extra cash? Are you paying them enough? Is that why they need extra cash? Because you're not paying them enough? Then if you're not paying them enough, you really don't have a say in the matter. If you know that you're paying below market rate and you've got this guy, you know what I mean? I don't know. Those are things to consider. And then also, I think season of life is important too. You got a 23-year-old who's busting their ass for you, and then they also want to mow lawns on the weekends. I got no problem with that.
No, that's the first question in my mind.
Okay, what is it?
Are they in a band that plays the honky tonks on Saturday night? That's a side hustle. Fine, they can do that. If you build pergolas and they get a small pergola job, that's not all right with me. And so anyway, I guess we can take sides on this and argue discuss the different sides. But my default is it's why are they doing it? I mean, that's introspective. That's for me to know. Do all my guys have to do side hustles to make a living? So what can I do? Do I raise my prices, try to make these guys? So I need to know for me if I'm contributing to them doing that. But but that doesn't mean that they get to do it and then I'm going to approve it because they did it and they tell me, well, I need more money, right? I'll give you a case in point.
Okay.
One that I remember from a long time ago. I've said that I had a sprinkler company back in the 80s, and we had a guy.
I've got a sprinkler guy coming by the house. Maybe you can give me some tips.
Yeah.
He'll be here at noon.
I could. Let's see what he charges you. No, I had a guy, I can't remember his name, a Hispanic guy. He was from Ecuador, and he was really good. And he did a lot of good work for us. He was a repair guy, and we gave him a truck, and he could drive the truck home. And he had a lot of stuff on it, sprinkler heads, pipe and dope and all this. So one day I just happened to be at a friend of my father's, and he said, "Man, I think it's really great that we'll call him Pedro, that you let Pedro do work on the side." And I go, "What?" He goes, "Oh yeah, he came over and replaced all my sprinkler head, I don't know what, $800-900 worth of stuff back in the 80s. And he said, "Yeah, you guys didn't mind that you let him do that." Well, guess whose stuff that was, that he put in?
Yours.
And guess who didn't get the job from a friend of my father's?
You did.
And I went back and fired him. And I mean, that was to me, a no-brainer. And I wasn't going to go, well, I didn't pay him enough, so he's justified in stealing stuff from us. Right?
No, see, that's where I draw a line too. Are they using your equipment, your machinery, your supplies, your materials? Yeah, that's not going to fly.
Well, are they wearing your T-shirt, or do people they're working for know that you work for them? And if something goes wrong,
Okay, but what if Pedro is mowing lawns in this situation?
if I don't do it, I've got nothing. I mean, he needs his hours, whatever
Okay,
responsibilities.
so
he's gotta meet.
if
That's
they're
fine.
doing something that's adjacent but not the same,
Yeah.
right?
If I'm not doing
like
that,
I'm doing sprinklers, and then I see people that need their lawn mowed, and I'm on the weekends I do a route, but I'm
Right.
working full time for you, Martin, doing sprinklers.
yeah. And
You're fine with that?
well, I'm going to say yes at this
Okay.
level. I'm going to say sure. I don't own the guy. If we got a 40-hour a week or whatever our requirements are that our employees
Mhm.
have to meet, get the schedule done, whatever it is, and he does that and he does something else, that's fine. It's okay sometimes if it's not fine, because does it diminish your capacity to do good work during the week, right?
Yeah.
But in general, I would say I would be fine with that. But doing the same genre of work, even
Mhm.
if, like my client said that he had told them they can do little jobs,
Yeah.
right? But the same kind of jobs, now you're immediately confused, right? Now
Mhm.
we've blurred the line between that's working for me and that's working for you. And yeah, you just stopped by, but you were driving my truck and there's the name of my company on the door, and you ran over real quick and did that one thing. We're
Okay.
blurring things.
So what about this? Pedro got your sprinkler. He's got his own truck. We'll get rid of that aspect of it. He's got his own truck, doing sprinklers for you 8 to 4. But at 5, he starts mowing lawns 5 days a week and on weekends. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, what could he have done if he was working for us, right? That kind of comes under a thing that really annoys the hell out of me. It really does. That when companies, including one that I'm affiliated with, but others that I know of, set a minimum, you
What do
got
you
to
mean
do
by minimum?
minimum hours to work, minimum
Oh, okay.
uh,
Gotcha.
revenue
Minimum jobs
per
done
guy
or,
per.
yep,
Yeah, I
minimum
mean, a lot of
visits.
people set minimums. You can, as long as you guys. I have another company that 4-man crew has to bill $4,000 a day, and for 4 days, that's what they got to do. And I may have that wrong, but anyway, something like that. So they can take the 5th day off, or they can work. But
What's that principle? The work expands to fill the time allotted.
time allotted, yeah.
I forget what that
Well, these
principle is.
guys are on a system that I know we've talked about it before because of Mike Handy's, where they get the work done, they get paid the amount.
Pay for
I mean,
performance.
and that's great. But going back to what I originally said, if you lay out a minimum and everybody just does the minimum, which is really,
Yeah.
that annoys the hell out of me. Yeah.
So
I
what
said a
do
minimum,
you think they should do it? They should just
I
do
think
maybe
that
hit the
occasionally
hours or
people
what?
can do beyond, go beyond a little bit. You set a minimum because that's the minimum. You're saying you do that and you're qualified, or you've met
Sure.
your duty, whatever. But who among us wants a complete company of people who do the minimum and that's it? Nobody.
Depends what the minimum is.
Yeah.
If the minimum's like crushing it and we're just profiting left and right, I'm okay
Yeah.
with a really high minimum.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
aren't you? Like,
Well, I just haven't really seen that.
sure. You
Yeah,
typically,
but
when people are setting the minimum, it's
well, there you go. That's why this stuff is nuanced, right? But
right.
in general, I'm going to say I'm not impressed by somebody who perpetually does the minimum. I've had those people. All the way back to when I ran grain elevator. There's a guy named Gerald, no kin to a very good friend of mine here in town. This guy was in
Okay.
another state. And he was steady. He always did the minimum, but he did it every day. And it really irritated me, but it also like steady as a rock, like building a building
Yeah,
on
you can
granite.
trust it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's going to happen. I scratched that off. Now we're dealing with everything above that. So it is nuanced, but you also want people who are eager, want to learn. I mean, do more than the
You just have to
minimum for
incentivize that
free.
stuff though. I mean, you just got to put bonuses in place. Hey, yeah, you've got to hit this minimum, period.
Right.
You hit this, bonus,
Well, they
more
need to
money,
earn,
more.
yeah, they need to earn more. Maybe it's not even bonus more. They don't do 20% more and get the same as if they'd done nothing. But in this day and age, particularly a couple of places I'm thinking of, work-life balance stuff,
Mhm.
I mean, I got into the conversation this week with a new client that the person who does the minimum all the time tends to think, I'm not costing you any money because you're not paying me beyond the minimum.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but I'm still paying everything else, the rent, the insurance, the telephone bill,
Yeah.
all the utilities, who knows, interest on uh, operating loans. And the minimum may be, there's a reason you set that because you wanted to attract people, but
Yeah.
they can do more and everybody benefits from more. And so,
Yeah. I think this is where it really helps to have long-term incentives.
right,
Hey, we have the company trip that we go on. If you qualify for it, if you hit this amount every single, or for this many weeks, we have a profit share program and you only get access if you hit, above the minimum of whatever, right? Just, setting new standards, beyond the minimum to do
right.
those things. But
Well,
you do have to give more, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in the form of a paycheck. It can be in the form of variety of
time
things. Hey,
off.
you get a new tool set if you do this or whatever.
Well, what we are really talking about, although minimums is a good subject, we could
Yeah,
dive into it more. We're talking about people doing side work, right?
sure.
And kind of what led us down this road is that they need to make more money, so they're off doing side work. And
Right.
I can't dictate it, but it affects my thinking. If somebody does the minimum of my work and is anxious to get to theirs,
Mm.
right? It
Yeah,
means they're not working for me. Okay, I can have listeners and probably going, "You're a schmuck." Well, maybe I am, but I don't see them as being fully on my team, right?
sure. I think
Uh,
that's the problem. I think there's nuance to it. I think that, in my opinion, if you don't have a deep knowledge of the motive for the side work, it means that you're not a good manager, in my opinion. You should know your employees. You should know their family. You should know their ambitions. You should know their past. You should know what they like to do, what they don't like to do, personality. You have to be a good manager to really have a good understanding of that.
right,
And then you can get into the nuance. If they've got a big goal that they're saving for, and it's just for the summer that they mow lawns with their brother, they, have got a route. They're not trying to grow it. It's something they do. It's good money for them. They're completely still bought in. They don't deal with issues. They've never had issues in work. You're meeting with them weekly and you can tell that, everything's fine. They're responsible. You've set clear ground rules. I think it can work. I think there's also a lot of value in it. That's something that we haven't talked about. Like, what is the value in them doing side work? Well, they're doing side work. They realize how much it takes to run a business, and they have a new appreciation for what you've been able to build, what you're able to do for them in terms of benefits and insurance and overhead and the equipment and the truck and all that kind of stuff. They understand, wow, I respect Martin a lot for what he's put in, and I know what it takes to build that.
right.
2, the mistakes they make when they're mowing lawns or whatever it is, the side hustle. I know that I'm using that example and it could be other things. The mistakes they're making there are mistakes that you're not having to pay for. The lessons that they're learning there, you also get benefit of. So there's potential there. But I'll
I
say most people, I would say, I'm just throwing out a random percentage here, but I feel like 90% of people that are doing a legitimate side hustle are doing it in construction, in something that's very similar to what they're doing in their day job. Like you said, pergolas, they're getting
you work
really
for,
close to pergolas probably,
yeah.
right?
Well, if you're
And
working on a 21-story building and you're a steel worker, and going to go put up some steel at your neighbor's for a steel pergola. Okay.
It's completely different.
Yeah. But I think you're right. There can be benefits, there can be some skill and experience, and it may or may not be related. If it is related where it's potentially more valuable, it's also potentially more dangerous because, there could be higher job satisfaction, like you said. Somebody is a little more satisfied because they have something else to look forward to. I'm still always, they're not totally on your team if they're have other priorities, but again, it's
and then they get hurt. So there's, funny enough, we have some serious trees on our lot. We're talking 40-foot plus. Some are probably 60, 70 feet tall.
Yeah.
They're massive.
At least.
And there's not just like 5 of them. There's like 30 maybe, or there were 30.
Yeah.
We had to get rid of some of them because they had Dutch elm disease. And the quotes were just crazy. I mean, no added value to your property. You're just doing property control, not wanting them to fall on your house. And we had my wife's car battery died. She left the lights on, whatever, had to get a tow truck to come out and just charge the battery and jump it. Guy named Jesse comes out, jumps the car at our house. So it's not like she's out and about. She's just at her house, and he sees the trees. He's like, hey, I can cut these down for you. So Jesse's got a side hustle where full time he's a tow truck guy, but now he's cutting trees. Well, it was a 3-day job of cutting down 7 trees for us that were massive. I mean, he brought his guys over, kind of a motley crew. They did it for probably like a third of the price of the quotes I was getting.
Right.
Still very expensive, but he took 3 days off of work, I'm assuming, to come do this job.
Yeah.
So he was using his PTO to come do this. And I'm telling you, this was back-breaking work. There's no way he didn't feel it the next day. Anyways, that's kind of the stuff that you're going to run into. They may end up taking off work to go do another job. And it's completely different. Towing and tree trimming is completely different. I will say I ran into Jesse on Monday at the gas station.
He was in a cast?
No, he had a trailer of Quickcrete and fence posts and fence panels. He's
putting up a fence
somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's still doing the side work.
Well, so, I mean, the good things that can happen, maybe that allows Jesse to stay working for the tow truck company, right?
Yeah.
Because he needs that extra income. Or maybe it's damaging to the tow truck company because he's not there for 4 days. But if he has PTO, that's his right to take those 4 days. Presumably they approve it, let him. So there is that stuff. But I think there's the possibility, it's plausible, that allowing side work that I'm always going to say, does not directly compete. If it directly competes, I'll make it easy on myself. No.
And equipment, that's a big one. Not using your equipment, not using your materials.
That's what I was going to, yeah. It enables them to maybe go out and do something that keeps them engaged. They might have higher job satisfaction because they think their boss cares about them.
Right.
And if it's not doing exactly what the company does, there's not a conflict. Potentially, there's less pressure on you for raises because they're meeting their cash needs by working. But the cons, and you see me looking down because I wrote these out a little bit, but
yeah.
Number one, direct competition is absolutely verboten. I mean, they leave the job that day. I mean, if you have, that happened. They cannot use company resources.
Yeah, it's the liability. They get in a wreck with your trailer job.
And the cost. I mean, the cost for the stuff, but the liability. Even if they're using their own truck, but the guy they're working for knows they work for you, it needs to somehow be clear he's not there on your behalf, because if you got liability insurance for $1 bazillion, he's got nothing. If something happens at that guy's house, you're going to get a letter.
Oh yeah.
He works for you. Well, he wasn't working for me then. Yeah, but sir, understand, is it true that he works for you? Yes. Did you stop him from going to, do you have clear policies and training that you cannot? No, I don't. So my client has reasonable expectations. He knows that he works for me and that he's covered, right? Yeah. Who's right, who's wrong, I don't care. You got a mess, right?
Yeah.
So reduce focus and getting tired. I mean, if somebody's thinking I got to get this job done by 4 because I got to be at my side job at 5. And so they hustle this job. Maybe they're a little tired when they come back to work tomorrow. There's just, there's conflict. There is the direct customer poaching, which I was talking about my client. That's what brought this whole thing up. And the guy goes, well, I'm not poaching. Neighbors walk over, but I just got to do the little jobs, And
I've seen the poaching be direct. Salespeople selling their own like half of the projects they're selling to themselves, half the projects they're selling to the company. Yeah. I've seen it.
Yeah,
so it's a real thing.
I have one other just story I remember in that sprinkler company. We had put in about over almost 3,500 systems. Not counting big systems, residential systems. So we had a repair and maintenance. I mean, that number now, the company's still here.
Oh, really?
Probably 25,000. I don't know. But anyway, we had a repair and maintenance business on the side, right? Not on the side. We had a repair and maintenance business as part of that, which was a big part of our business. And I hired a guy, I can remember his name, hired a guy to come do that. And then started hearing that he was putting out the words, call me, So I brought him in and sat him down. I said, is this happening? He goes, yeah. He said, I figured I'd just do all this maintenance work for you guys and you wouldn't have to worry about it. Well, guess whose stuff was in it? Anyway, I got so mad. I mean, I everything I could do, start to fight, literally. But in between my eyebrows started twitching. It's the only time I ever had a twitch.
That's hilarious.
And I couldn't stop it. And I mean, it was like, does everybody see this? Because, man, it was just.
It's like me when I work out.
Yeah. Oh, you got a twitch?
Yeah. I was doing farmer carries yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought I was starting to have a stroke because my right side started just like.
Oh, that is a stroke. You need to set him down. No,
I looked in the mirror very carefully and I was like, is it drooping? Is it drooping?
Yeah. Am I drooling?
No, people might have a stroke over something like that.
No, I was so mad. And I mean, that's the only time that's ever happened, but I'm sitting here talking about it 35 years, 40 years later. But anyway, I just said, get your ass out of here. And if I ever see you again, I'm not going to hold back. Well, my dad said you wouldn't. I told my dad what I was going to do, and my dad said, you wouldn't be happy. And I thought, well, why would I said, get out of here. Anyway, and he left. But I mean, I was so, he was just stealing from us. Yeah. And he had it all rationalized in his mind. So kind of, I mean, there are potential there with side work and work in your business. I'm going to just come down. You and I, we can vote here. I'm going to, if they're doing anything related to your business, not the little jobs, just the little jobs. If it's what you do, no, just.
Yeah. I think if it's what you do, that's a red flag. It's a hard line. We're not doing that. I think what's also hard about this, Martin, I bet a good majority of our audience started their business off of a side hustle.
Well, again, side hustle, you're working in pergolas, but you're pouring concrete. Yeah, that's different.
Sure, but I think probably even they were working in pergolas and now they're doing pergolas.
You're exactly right. The guy who started this conversation, my client, he calls me about that and I said, fire his ass, boom. Well, I did tell him he could do, and then he lays this on me. He goes, well, the guy I work for helped me start my business. What? I was doing, and the guy helped him. So there you go. Oh, okay, it's Christian. He'll help your guy get out.
Well, and there's a difference in that. And that's why I say, if you have a deep knowledge, if you're mentoring this person, that's different. And there's a level of respect. There's a level of understanding that, hey, there's an exit plan, or, you're going to start your own company and I'd love to help you do that.
And you tell me every job you're doing. You tell me every job you want to look at before you go do it. And you tell me every job, and you get discrete approval.
Right.
But if we're just talking policy,
Yeah.
I'm coming down on no.
And I'm not in construction, but I've had employees that do side. I have one right now doing side work, and it's work that we would never do. It's work that we would never chase. And there's enough work in what we do that it's not even like an issue.
Well, did
Like,
this
it's not like they're
person
stealing
tell
business
you,
from us.
or did you discover it?
So my policy has always been, hey, I'm all about you doing side hustles. Again, different industry, doesn't require my equipment, doesn't require my, whatever. And it's probably going to end up being on my time. But we fall in the camp of kind of, we have minimums. It's not that we have a minimum. We just have an expectation that you're going to prioritize our work and you're going to get it done in a timely manner. And I meet with my team regularly enough that I know if they're not doing stuff on time. I just have a good understanding of everything. So with that, my policy has always been, just tell me, hey, I want to know what you're doing. Tell me about your side work. Tell me, I'd love to review it. I'd love to give you some feedback.
And if you discover that they did not tell you something that was of significance, what happens?
If they were, for example, if they were to go through a situation where they were working on the side on something and it directly impacted our work because they were more dedicated to that than to what we were doing, I'd have a conversation with them and ask them why. And I'd help them understand the ramifications of that. And basically for my line of work, I may ask them, do you want to just become a contractor for us? We'll get rid of the salary that we have. We'll get rid of benefits, all that kind of stuff. And you can just be a contractor. And I'll show them like, hey, that's the potential of what you're doing here. You're just becoming a freelancer. Right.
Right.
So that's kind of my approach. I've never had it happen.
And where does it go do you ever get to the point where you say you're gone?
I haven't had to, but I would, yeah. I would very quickly, hey, I think you're doing a really great job with your side work. I think you can make that a full-time thing. You're giving your best time to it, so maybe you should do that. And I'd move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's kind of how I'd approach it.
Yeah, clarity. We talk about clarity in all things, but clarity is absolutely required. And if there is anything, they have to tell you all about it. But my default still is no. We can even talk about non-solicit, non-compete. You can't essentially forget it, depending on what level,
Yeah.
Some owner of a company sells his company for $100 million. They can do non-competes, but that's not going to work here. Non-solicits you could enforce, but that means you're going to go get a lawyer and sue some guy who's, you're not going to do it. So just be real clear and make sure you're not, and if they want to go be on their own, go be on your own.
Yeah.
And
nothing stopping
and find out all the things you didn't know about. We had more guys leave our crews in sprinkler companies because at the time, sprinkler system back then, we were pretty expensive, about $3,000 to $5,000.
Okay.
Which in 85, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot of money.
There's a lot of money.
That's pretty good.
You could get them for a lot less.
Okay.
And we sold them because we did them right. Not only designed them, but also did the hookups and all that legal and got permits. Well, those guys would, they're out there digging a hole. Would go for some PVC. So they quit and they go get a job for their parents or something. And then pretty soon they discover everything, right? Like the bill comes due from the supply house. Like you got to get permits, got to have an EIN number to get permits, keeping books, paying your, taxes, and they go out of business. The bad thing was they'd wipe out about 10 jobs that before they go out of business, and then there'd be some other guy out there doing the same thing. But welcome to the world, right? All the things you didn't know about.
I think the important thing is to understand what your philosophy is around side jobs. If you're going to be about it, be invested, help them out, guide them through it, be keenly aware of what they're doing, ask them about their projects.
Full disclosure.
Exactly. And if you can't do it to that level, I think you should just have a no policy.
Yeah. So we agree on that.
Yeah. But I do want to make the case, because I know that from your side, you're very adamant. No, I do think there's a legitimate case for allowing side work, but you just have to be very invested in your team, and very knowledgeable. So it's kind of all in or all out.
I'm not always no. I'm start with no. But the full disclosure, how closely related is the business? Do I know everything about it? And do I say, no, we're actually going to take that job, right? Could you do that in that case? But something else, maybe I said it early, don't remember saying it, but the guy my client who called it caused us to be talking about this, the employee was handing out cards to the customer and the neighbors.
Yeah.
But he didn't do that when my client was there. He was told by a driver, he said, did you know that? That to me, I mean, boom, if you're not going to do it in my presence, then you know.
And this comes into something where you've got to recognize the talent that you have. You know, if this person's a go-getter and is ready to like, I don't even know your client, but let's just say you're doing concrete, you're doing bigger jobs, parking lots, whatever it is, huge foundations for warehouses. And you've got an employee that's wanting to do this side work and doing more residential and all this kind of stuff. Maybe he's the perfect person to open up a division for residential and have equity stake in it. You know what I mean?
That absolutely. We had a guest on here, Monty Markham.
Yeah.
And so I can talk about this because he talked about it on
I
the
gotta
podcast.
say, I ran into Monty. I went to Markham's nursery.
Oh, yeah?
We had that 70-mile-an-hour wind day with all the dust. You remember that?
Yeah.
I was the next morning, and I doubt he's there on a Saturday morning that often. He was there because
putting all the greenhouses back together. And
oh man, they opened 2 hours late, and I just saw him red in the face, going up and putting up tarps and all that stuff. I
protecting
thought you'd
inventory.
appreciate that.
But one of his things was he had guys that he'd trained up really well, and he said they're going to go leave. So he actually bought some companies, and so he could put them in as manager. So that's a next level kind of
I think it's recognizing that opportunity of just how can we use this as an opportunity to do something different.
Right.
There's a really successful guy here in town, Mark Moore, who when he sees someone that's coming up to their ceiling, he wants to know, like if they want to start a business or do their own thing or whatever, he wants to know. And he'll be an investor and put up significant capital and be a part owner with them and be their first customer. So he owns dealerships, but the marketing group for the dealerships, he helped start and he funded them.
Do we have a mutual friend who works for him still?
We do. Yeah.
Ethan?
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
If Ethan's listening, what's up, Ethan? Doubt it, but he used to work on this podcast. Go listen to the first episodes. He would do a recap for us, but he works there, started it with Mark, and they do all of Mark's dealerships, and then they are going to get other dealership clients, and he'll do that. He'll keep them as a vendor for them up to a certain point. And then if they're not the best price or they're not the best service, he moves on, and he'll just pop them up like that. But he finds people that are, hitting their ceiling, and he finds a way to invest in them in other ways. And so that's a great opportunity if your employees are doing side hustles.
I think that kind of the key takeaways for me are: one, do you know about it? Two, is it direct competition? That's not the end of it because they're competing for their time, focus, and energy.
Right.
But those are the two main things. And I come down on the side of my default that my starting place is no. And we can be convinced otherwise, but not yes, and then have to go deal with a guy who...
It takes a very specific person to be able to do a side hustle while maintaining a full-time job and do it ethically. It takes a very specific person. So it should be a default no. Right. But if you feel like it could work out with this person, then yes. And the other option you have is to turn them into a contractor. Hey, let's say they do your installs. Well, this is our install contractor that we sub it out to, and they can do other installs, they can do other stuff, and you pay them by the project.
That's a great idea. And maybe we ought to do a show on how to do that because that's kind of a big deal. And one thing I do know already without going any further is if you can't do it for yourself, fix that first.
Yeah.
Because you're not, if you don't have good books and good understanding of how things work and not scared to ask the right kind of price and capital, how much capital you need, all those things. But once you do that, then you got something valuable to help a guy with and take some equity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, anyway, it'd be great to have people call up and give their opinions on it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd love to hear. I bet there's so many good stories on this topic that we're missing out. So if you have those, shoot us an email. We'd love to chat. Thanks for listening in. Fun episode. Hope that you enjoyed our banter. I'll try to be more responsive, Martin. Just call me though. Don't text me.
Okay.
I'm not going to be able to text on this.
Sometimes I don't want to talk to you. I just want to.
I know.
That's a good thing about text is you get a discharge. Well, I answered, but I didn't have to talk to that guy.
Yeah.
You know? But I texted him, so it's bingo. It's in your court now. So no, it's great.
All right.
Okay, sir.
Thanks, Martin.
Yeah. Talk to you later.
See ya.
You made it to the end of the episode, but before you go, if you found yourself thinking about growing your construction business while listening today, I want to share something with you. It's called our 24 Things to Hiring and Training the Perfect Executive Assistant for Your Construction Business. And it's a free guide that we've created. It's not theory. It's what we actually use to help contractors hire the perfect executive assistant. And really, we help you find ways to delegate over 50% of your current workload and get back 20 hours of your time every single week. You didn't start your construction business to just be doing admin work, to be buried in paperwork and endless admin tasks. This is the guide that shows you exactly how to find and train someone who can actually take all that weight off of your shoulders. So this is a real actionable, great PDF that has templates and processes. It's really, really great. And I want you to check it out, even just to get your feedback and how we can make it even more valuable. But I know that you're gonna love it. The link is in the show notes. Please download it. We'd love to see how much of an impact it makes on you and your business. Thanks for listening to the full episode. Check out the guide. It's free. No reason to hesitate. No reason to wait. Download it now. And before you go, I just want to ask for your gracious subscription to our podcast. So if you have 2 seconds, it means the world to us. Just subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or if you'd like our weekly newsletter delivered to your inbox whenever we release an episode, please subscribe in the show notes. Every week, we're talking about real strategies on how you can grow and build a profitable construction business that runs without you, so you can have less stress, more time, and more money. Click subscribe wherever you listen to the show, and thank you again for checking out the Cashflow Contractor. See you on the next episode.